Oh, well. Woo! Can you mute this one for now? And okay. Start camera. Oh my gosh. Hello? Hello? It's finally working. Sorry, out the technicalities. Jackie, you there? Thanks for your help, by the way.
You're welcome. I hear an echo. Do you have all your devices volumes off?
Yeah, hold on one sec.
I'll turn down the volume here.
Oh, no, this is supposed to be on high def. How about that?
Check.
Checking, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's
Cool.
much better. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not an easy thing, is it?
It's really not. Oh my gosh. I mean, I figured it'd be a little complicated, but
I still
sheesh.
hear the echo. Oh, one more thing.
Hi, Mike.
Okay, don't talk for a second. Go to your settings underneath there. Go to your settings and go under audio or microphone. And there'll be a thing that will say audio. And then hit echo cancellation.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay.
You still hearing an echo?
There's
Oh,
still
really?
an echo.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wait, maybe it's just, it says audio sounds good. Do you hear an echo on your end?
No.
Or here, I'm going to go off and come back on.
Okay.
And then maybe, because if
No
you're
echo
not hearing
here.
it,
Yeah, we're hearing it. It's good. But yeah, maybe try it. Maybe it's on your
okay,
end.
I'll come.
Conspiracy trivia says it's good. Cool. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I wanted this to kind of be, this is a ladies panel, right? But I like to feel it out in the beginning. If anyone wants to come on, feel free. Introduce yourself. Let me look, see what's going on up here. Mm. Hey. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Oh, great.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm excited to be part of the discussion, and thank you for including me, and thank you for doing this.
Thanks for joining. It's
Sounds like the audio is good. Is the audio good on your side?
Yes, the audio is very good on my side, but I can make adjustments if you need me to.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. But yeah, I'm really excited just to kind of have this this space for all of us to talk about what we want to talk about. We spoke a little bit I spoke with you about what I was thinking about doing for this first episode, but I kind of just want to keep it as open as possible and like let everyone introduce themselves, and then if anyone wants to talk about anything, we can talk about it. But I have a couple of clips that maybe I wanted to see. I want to get some impressions from some of my friends and other women. Hold on one sec. But yeah, this is, I'm mainly wanting to do this just because I'm seeing a lot of spaces that I'm enjoying interacting on online and in I guess the truth community. But they're a little bit, it's a male space, which is fine, and they need those sort of spaces. And I enjoy interacting, but I'm definitely seeing a need. I'm wanting to find a space to express myself more and let these other ladies sort of come up and kind of give our take and see kind of what it's like from our perspective and how we can learn to develop ourselves and free ourselves, really. But yeah. Audio sounds good. Happy Friday. And it's also a Valentine's Day episode because Valentine's Day is coming up. But yeah. Are you frozen? No, good. You're there. I'm so nervous about it all working correctly because it was a little scary. They're getting this started, but okay, we're good.
This is fun for me, and I'm learning as well, and I'm happy to see what tools you're employing so we can do more of this type of thing in the future.
Turn you up a little bit. Yeah, so especially recently, I don't know if how much you've been watching. So I kind of got my idea from doing this sort of panel and this sort of platform from the Paul and Slave show. I think that's a really powerful format. I mean, just watching some of the transformations of people just having that space to be able to interact with others and share ideas and try to figure out how to work ourselves out of slavery, so to speak. I think it's super powerful. And also being able to navigate relationships. That's a big hang up I see just with all humans everywhere, male, female, you know, whatever. Our relationships really get in the way of us trying to, I see, achieve freedom, really. I've seen that in my life. I've seen it, you know, just everyone all around us. There's so many issues that we run into growing up with just indoctrination. I mean, just on the public school level, just on a basic level of how we understand things, how we learn, the propaganda we're fed. And then on top of it, we have all of our attachment wounds from our childhood that come to play in our relationships. And yeah, it's important. It's important for us to figure this out and figure out how to work together, both in our friendships, in our more intimate relationships, in every which way. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, have you gotten into attachment theory at all? Have you heard about that? Oh, Jackie's
Yes.
back.
I'm a big fan of studying attachment theory, and how I got into it was studying gentle parenting, and also known as quiet parenting or Zen parenting, peaceful parenting techniques, because a lot of like you were mentioning, a lot of adult relationship issues start with our earliest childhood traumas, or our constant complex post-traumatic stress disorder experiences, or maybe a main post-traumatic stress disorder experience that we experienced as far back as we can remember, or even for a lot of men who've experienced circumcision before they can even remember, they've experienced forms of attachment trauma.
Gosh. Yeah, talk about early trauma. I mean, from the get-go.
And
but yeah,
I guess something that shaped my life that was similar to, I guess, what men go through, is that when I was a baby, I was having experiences with interdimensional entities and dead people visiting me and kind of bothering me when I was in a crib. And I remember decisively that I learned language. I learned words consciously so that I'd be able to communicate my experience to my parents. And
Wow.
when I finally learned words, my mother understood what I was saying and asked my father, you know, can she sleep with us in the master bedroom? And my father said, you know, no, that's going to interrupt us being intimate. I don't think he either was gaslighting me and didn't understand the severity of what I was asking, or he just assumed, oh, it's normal for a little kid to be terrified. But really, it was the extent of that I was actually being lifted out of my crib or bed by these entities and having reoccurring dreams and nightmares with them. And so that was my earliest experience of, oh, I need to be. It hypersexualized me from childhood, because it meant to me that in order to be valuable, I needed to, or to be protected, I needed to be of some sort of sexual use to a man. And so that also was fundamentally underscored with growing up in Christianity, where the next tool that you're given to protect yourself from demonic attack is this male-based, male-dominated patriarchal religion, and which doesn't really treat women as even as human or as divine as men in any way.
Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. I used to get night terrors, and I experienced that feeling of a parental rejection or invalidation of your fears of what you're going through as a child. I mean, that's a fundamental trauma right there, you know, alone. That's terrifying. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but again, I think that really comes, it really reminds me of the whole idea of, we have this system, we have this state that's coming down, and, you know, I mean, that really controls our society, right? And so with all of this trauma that we all collectively experience, and then individual trauma, like something as traumatic as you've gone through, how are we ever going to, you know, I don't know how much of it is by design, or how much is this a result of people being raised and raising other children improperly and traumatizing. Is this by design, that this happens, or is this, is this a human nature? Are we dealing, it's hard to even, when we talk about masculine and feminine principles, it's been so corrupted, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And, that doesn't help.
Yes, I think it's a failure. If we're talking about positive aspects of femininity and masculinity, there's also the shadow aspects of femininity and masculinity, and it's that the masculine might be perpetuating, discounting the opinion of their children and competing with their children for, say, example, the love of their wife or the love of the child's mother, and meanwhile, the mother is acting in subservience or wanting to appease the father, people please the father at the expense of not protecting their children. And we see that in circumcision, where mothers are having a failure of protecting their children because they're trusting the father or trusting the patriarchal religion at hand, or they're trusting the opinion of doctors, which is a white, Western, medical, patriarchal, colonialist structure in and of itself. And so there's failures both in men competing with and discounting the trauma of their children, and there's failures in women failing to protect their children from this trauma.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you feel, I mean, I guess going over the circumcision issue, do you feel like that's something that people are becoming more aware of? Have you seen, because I feel like people are seeing that more. I'm just with parents, and I'm just on social media and just in the world. I feel like that conversation is kind of coming up a little bit more, and thank God,
I've seen a lot of positive change in the last 10 years that I've been online, and partly because truth advocates, and there is absolutely a place for men's rights issues and liberating men, just like there's a place for liberating women and and radical feminism. There's a place for radically looking at all of these issues from the bottom up. But there has been a major change in the past 10 years, and part of that is from people waking up, not wanting to repeat the cycles of trauma, recognizing it as the genital mutilation that it is. And also, I've taken it as my personal work to infiltrate random moral subcultures to get the word out and cyberbully people who are in support of circumcision.
Okay. Like what kind of subcultures?
Particularly, I would specifically bring it up in vegan groups, because it's a moral subculture that bases itself in empathy, and also people who are religious. I often bring it up with them. And also raising it as awareness, even within radical feminism, that we need to end the cycle of oppression for both the oppressed and the oppressor.
Yeah. And I'm really quick, sorry to cut you off, but your mic's a little staticky.
Oh, sorry.
So maybe I was going to say, if it doesn't change, maybe try if you go off and then come back on real quick.
Also maybe readjust or readjust something with the mic.
Readjust something with the mic. Oh, what, like location?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk again.
Try now. Can you hear me now? And if not, then I have two other microphones, earphones.
Okay, it's like a little bit better, but maybe yeah. I think it's it sounds like the mic is it's the actual mic. It's a little crispy.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. I'll take myself off your earphones.
But yeah, come back.
Maybe this is better. Can you hear me now using the phone mic?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that is better.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. But yeah, I think that's a really great idea. It's a really great method, kind of like you said, like infiltrating these groups that are these subgroups that are based on moral pursuits, and I almost feel that way, like convincing, let's say, like vegans, showing them the light, so to speak, on the slavery that humanity is still experiencing. It's almost an easier sell, I often feel like, than, let's say, talking to truthers or people who are have a moral pursuit towards humans, getting them to see the light as far as the morality for animals. But it's an interesting it's a good method. It's a good method. And I think it's very important. People get so compartmentalized into these echo chambers on social media that it takes that, like, we have to kind of inject the truth everywhere, so to speak, and not get caught up in these echo chambers. And I see that on Facebook. I'm sure, it's, if I don't know how much interacting you do on there on other people's posts, but it's easy to get caught up in these echo chambers and put a lot of time and energy and waste, in my opinion, because, how are we going to change the world when we're just arguing with the same people over and over,
Absolutely. And something that why I think that unfortunately a lot of the truther platforms are so male dominated is a lot of people come there from the liberty community, which is based on a lot of patriarchy in the sense of worship of the founding fathers, worship of these old documents like the Constitution. And it takes a lot for people to finally transition into the agoristic anarchist side of things, which can be much more morally relevant to recognizing the strife of women and minorities and other subcultures that the liberty community itself normally demographically alienates.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I saw that after the whole Trump movement. It brought over a lot of, let's say, libertarians or people who are a little bit more on, on the what they call themselves, whether they call themselves anarchists or voluntarists. It's a hard sort of balance, right? Because it's sort of like, it's a masculine energy, right? Like to change things, to make change, to do things. Like there's a lot of, to change society, we have to harness the masculine energy, but it's like it's hard to balance that. And like you were saying, you see a lot of, like, I don't know if you want to call it patriarchal, but it's a very male based movement because of that, because of those principles, let's say. And so it's the key to any movement, really. I mean, the women, once the women make the change, the women can influence men a lot. And so it takes a lot, that balance of feminine energy and intuition and balance. But yeah, which certainly is missing. Like I said, it's like it's a very, I don't know. We lost a lot of people to the Trump movement. It was a bummer to see. It was definitely a bummer to see.
I feel like too, with the balance with the feminine and masculine within us, like Dawn was saying, I also had the same history of like a lot of promiscuity, growing up and, my early 20s and all that. And just that need for connect. And when I really think about it now that I'm, I've really done a lot of work on myself, I think about it now as it was misplaced. Wanting to connect with other energies, with other people. And it was misconstrued as, Jackie sleeps around a lot, but it was that lack of, I didn't have a father growing up. So it was that lack of masculine energy in my house that like I thrived to have it around me. But when I think about it now, I think it was more that just I love to connect with people, and I always have. And I love to just, feel what a person's about. And I just didn't know how to, exhibit that in a healthy way. And,
Right.
And then just the satisfaction of, the satisfaction that it gave you, it like filled that, some type of a void that, I felt like I needed at that time, because I never felt bad about it. I never felt guilty about it. I never felt like, I never shamed myself for it, no matter how many, names were being slung around, because I think I always felt like I knew in my heart that it was the connections that I was craving. And it wasn't really but now that was like a total, the feminine taking like rolled the whole first part of my life.
That feminine energy just kind of just letting
energy just oozing,
exactly.
And then once I became more balanced and started to do some work with myself and really started to think about why I was doing these things, I realized, and then starting to just stand on my own, you know, and then that helped to build my my masculine side, my, you know, the divine masculine, to help to balance out that over femininity. So, and that's why I think like that, you know, there's, you know, some of us that like to get up and speak and try to help people, because it's still so unbalanced. The balance is unbalanced.
And it's even, it's like as I get older, what I previously thought was a sort of balance, I'm seeing, you know, it's more is being revealed, right? Like
Right.
it's a constant balancing act, and
It
we
is.
all individually have our own experiences, traumas, positive experiences, whatever, that shaped us, that, you know, shaped our personality. And so it's been an interesting thing for me, is sort of like seeing what, you know, what I've expressed, what I've done, what is that coming out of? Is that coming out of an imbalance or an overexpression of, let's say, like a feminine aspect or a masculine aspect of myself? Yeah.
Exactly.
I grew up kind of a tomboy. I was an only child, and my dad was home a lot more. My mom worked more. So that right there, you know, I had a sort of, it was my, just looking at my parents' situation, it was sort of a imbalance as far as masculine and feminine.
Right,
so it's
right.
like, it's interesting to see how far we're distorted, so to speak, how many, you know, in generations and generations of all of this. It's something to definitely like unzip or unpack, so to speak.
Where I was raised with just my mother, because my dad died when I was 3. But then my mother decided that she was a lesbian. So then I got raised in a lesbian household, which even was more of a like a weird dynamic of who am I growing up, you know, going through puberty without a father, and then a mother who's a lesbian, you know, really like messed with my. So I had to think, was I doing these things because I wanted to prove that I wasn't, you know, or,
right.
you know, that
Like,
fight
where's it
within
coming
myself.
from?
Am I going to end up like that? You know, because my mom's like that, or, you know,
So
it's a constant battle. I think it's a constant battle. I think these beings that we, you know, we come into are so, you know, it's so divided, it's so yin and yang, that it's just constant, it's just literally a constant drive to figure it out. To just live in peace for a day, for a minute, you know.
And that's the self-work, right? Is just unpack, like seeing, you know, breaking ourselves down. And that was one quote from Jordan Peterson. I'm not the biggest fan of him these days, but one thing a value I gained from him was the whole idea of burning dead wood, and the idea of like the alchemical purification of self, and, you know, making ourselves gold. It's like the divine standard, but burning off the dead wood to where we find our true selves. What's this extra stuff that's just hanging on as a circumstance of our environment that's not truly us?
Right.
But it's fun stuff.
Not really, but but like Josh always says, we've chosen it. We've asked the questions. We've said, I want to be better. I want to do better. I don't want to deal with living in my own shit anymore, you know? And so when you ask, you receive. So you don't always like the way it comes across sometimes, you know, or what you put into, or the work that's in front of you isn't always easy and comfortable. And, but we ask for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I do find it's like the metaphor of climbing a mountain. It's nice.
Yeah.
You're working, there's this pain, and then you get to a point and you look down and you look at the view and you're all, oh wow, you see how far you've come, so to speak. And that's like, for me, that's the fun part of just that feeling of like, oh wow, like kind of checking in, looking back and be like, okay, like I see things clearer now, like having, you know, just because we'll always have, it's impossible. There's always contrast, right? Like life, there's always going to be contrast, no matter how far along the path we are, so to speak. But it's like finding that place of like, of I guess, how do you say, like oneness, so to speak, but just finding self. You know, we're always building. I don't know if we'll ever complete it, but we're always building it. you know. So I think this is a good, I want to try bringing up this clip. Have you guys heard of
Yeah.
Teal Swan?
I have, and unfortunately, if I don't know if you want me to give my opinion before or after you play the clip, and I can wait. I can defer my opinion to telling you my own personal
Okay.
experience.
That'd be cool. Cause yeah, I definitely I've mixed feelings, but yeah. Oh, and then Dawn, could you turn your mic up a little bit? You're a little
In the
quiet.
settings. Just in the settings.
I think, yeah, in the settings in StreamYard. So I'm gonna see. Okay, I just want to bring up the
Thank you. Can you hear me better?
yeah, way better, way better.
Thank you very much for suggesting it.
Yeah, of course. So I'm just bringing up this. So as I bring this up, so yeah, from what like I said, I have mixed feelings towards this individual, Teal Swan. I know there's been a lot of controversy as of recent. I've watched her videos in the past and I found some value in them, mixed with a lot of, I think, misinformation, and she's a very new age type character. Okay, so how do I share the tab? So present, share screen. Sorry guys, just figuring it out. So
I think go to, yeah, there you go.
You have to. Oh, you got it. Okay, good.
you can see. So yeah, so this was an interesting video I came across. Part of it resonated with me, and I have problems, and I think it's a good conversation starter. So Teal Swan, for those who don't know, like I said, she's 1.5 million subscribers. She's sort of a new age. I mean, Dawn, maybe you can jump in if you want to correct any of my description of her here, but sort of a new age leader for people finding themselves, so to speak. Self-empowerment. Like I said, I've positive and negative opinions of her. Okay.
The word own has a negative connotation. It's become such a dirty word that chances are when you saw the title of this episode, you felt a minor shockwave of distrust towards me. The first thing you thought was, maybe she has crossed over to the dark side.
Just a little creepy.
Ownership is associated with possession. The problem with this is that possession has a light side and a dark side. And the dark side of possession is not actually inherent to the actual concept of ownership or possession. It's an additive that is created by the limitation of human consciousness. To possess something is to have that thing in that it belongs to you. It is actually the positive side of possession. It is an inclusion-based concept. To love something is to take it as a part of yourself. This means it automatically belongs with and to you, and so you have it. Where possession goes dark is that the negative side of possession is the meaning that once you have something, you have complete and total control over it. But what if I told you this actually has nothing to do with possession in and of itself? It's that mankind's limited consciousness equates something belonging with you and to you and having it as automatically meaning you can completely control it. In other words, unawakened men simply decided at the mercy of their own fears and therefore impulse towards power that to have something meant to control it completely. But this is in fact the opposite of true ownership. If you have a negative association with the concept of ownership, it's because you yourself experienced the shadow aspect of possession, which means you weren't actually owned. Somebody treated you as an object in their reality. You were not a part of them, and so You were powerless, and your best interests were never seen or cared for. You have never experienced true ownership. To truly own something is to see that thing as a part of yourself. If something's a part of you, you can't hurt it without hurting yourself. You can't usurp its free will without hurting yourself. And so the well-being and the best interest of that thing is of the utmost concern with genuine ownership. When we don't own people,
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. Thoughts? Anyone? I thought it was interesting, the idea of control. Like, it definitely, I'm not gonna lie, like that was a little triggering. I don't know if I agree with her definition and application of the word own, but I thought the idea of incorporating it with control was interesting.
I want to
can
hear
keep
more
playing the
first.
video. Okay, I'm gonna keep playing the video.
Yeah.
And I haven't listened to this all the way through. I got like around here and then I just stopped because I want to watch it with you guys.
as part of our, we feel no responsibility to.
Let me go back.
Well-being and the best interest of that thing is of the utmost concern with genuine ownership. When we don't own people as part of ourselves, we feel no responsibility to them. We take ourselves to be totally separate from each other. We think of them as other. We are in fact more at risk of playing a zero-sum game where we are looking to win than for them to lose. We become self-centered and are only in relationships as a transaction or a means to an end. We are not in relationships for connection itself. Where to have that connection, we must see, feel, hear, and understand the other person. To explain this dynamic further, I'm going to highlight an aspect of our society where throwing out the concept of ownership has done extreme amounts of damage to the relationship between two people, men and women. For thousands of years, women were seen as property, just like a man owning land. And as such, that man had ownership over the woman. But most men did not take women as part of themselves in this ownership. They did not consider the best interests of their wives or daughters, or even sons for that matter. They just took possession from them and they get to control them however they want. They were totally in the form of shadow possession. But when the feminist movement came through and demolished the idea that a woman is the property of a man, men were forced to relinquish possession of women. Now this is the thing, when men relinquished ownership over the women, they didn't just relinquish the shadow side of ownership. They also relinquished the light side of ownership. It was almost like they said, okay, well, I won't own you as property then, but I sure as hell am not going to own you in any other way either. Relationships between men and women have suffered immensely. Women really enjoyed that sense of containment and that sense of protection that comes with the genuine ownership of divine masculine. No, they didn't like being controlled, but they enjoyed being owned.
Man, she's so cringy, and I can go into an explanation of why she's so cringy, but definitely both of you are just as much, if not more, divine oracles who are living your truth and your divine feminine power than a false leader or somebody who preys on people who need validation or confirmation of what they need to believe spiritually. And definitely she is a great embodiment of false femininity and manipulative femininity and egotism and spiritual narcissism.
So I definitely get that. Yeah, like that embodiment of like dark femininity, like you said. I definitely get that impression a little bit.
And partly why I have such a big problem with her is because I studied her work extensively from 2012 to about 2014 or 15. And she came across my feed at a very pivotal time in my life. I was researching the actual true satanic ritual abuse of women such as Arizona Wilder and Kathy O'Brien, who really did experience MK Ultra mind control programming, and were disseminating their information. And lo and behold, what kept coming up in my feed as suggested videos was her spiel, the Teal Swan spiel. And what I've done as far as doing a very in-depth investigation into her satanic ritual abuse story is, as well as the eyewitness testimony of at least 5 people who have known her intimately and lived with her, of which I can source at another time. I'm not prepared to do right now, but I could name some names if anybody wants receipts. I can provide them. Is that her satanic ritual abuse narrative is almost completely fabricated. And that might come from some sort of attachment trauma issues that she had in childhood, from being completely ignored or having to compete with her children, her mother, or having a creepy father. But as far as her childhood friends who lived right next to her have stated in different publications, her satanic ritual abuse story is more than likely completely fabricated. And that was actually the door into how she got me to trust her. Was I was saying, oh wow, here's this exceptionally beautiful, exceptionally bright, well-spoken woman who survived the unthinkable. Surely she's a good role model for me to look up to and trust. And I realized, no, actually, she's her energy field is informed by dark feminine succubus, satanic. She wants to inform in order to control, manipulate, and dominate, and put herself as a false leadership figure. And she's occupied by what I would call, or what people in the spiritual community refer to as, a Jezebel spirit.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm sorry to cut you off again, but then your mic it started getting super staticky again.
Weird. It might be actual spirits who don't want me to talk on the subject.
It very well might be.
It could be.
Are you using a phone or a laptop?
I'm using a phone.
I'm using my phone, and I don't have any headphones on. Sometimes it's actually, I find it better without the headphones sometimes.
What's crazy is I was using headphones, and then as soon as you guys said it was staticky the first time, I transitioned to not using headphones, and I'm now on a completely different mic system. However, I have 2 microphones downstairs. I can try if any of those work instead. But if not, then this room I also experience flickering lights and crazy weird things, because I am a medium as far as contacting and interacting with the dead, and it very well might likely be demonic intervention.
It might be, because I know when I tried to do it for my laptop, I was getting an echo on my end, and you guys weren't hearing it. And I'm pretty inept with this whole StreamYard and everything, and that's never happened before. So that could very well be.
But I don't want to make excuses for it. I am an empiricist, and so if you I can get 2 more systems of headphones downstairs to see if that alleviates and eliminates the problem.
Yeah, or maybe that, and then maybe try hopping off and then hopping back on again, because it could be just like the actual connection too.
Understood. Would you like me to try that first?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, and as far as I think I've heard this woman before. I went from complete my spiritualism, completely delved in religion for a short amount of time, and then it went into spiritualism, and then into self-actualization / spiritualism. So I've been through different various stages of awakening, as far as creator, and as far as things working through you. And so I've been through this stage here that she's calling people to. Now I see that with anything, there's always gems that you can find out of things. I hate to say with anything I watch that I'm not going to find any value at all. So at some point, some things, like at certain levels, she might be very, very, very good for some people to listen to get some things to just help pull them up to the next step. And then as you get to the next step, your eyes open, and then you begin to see the lies, or the fakeness, or the spirits that are behind what she's saying is, So that's kind of where I feel with her. She rubs me the wrong way right away. I think I've seen her one other time before. But
that little wink at the end right before I paused, it was like, oh man, woo.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, so we've had all these waves of feminism, so it's almost like she seems to be sort of the head, just by looking at her numbers. I mean, 1.5 million subscribers. I know, super popular. There's a documentary I watched a little bit on, like some show that they started, that they try to make her look like she was a cult figure, which but it seems to be this this latest wave of not feminism, but just sort of like female empowerment, female
Yeah.
self-discovery,
Right.
where it's, you know, like I always say every movement gets co-opted, right? So there's like a
Exactly.
light and a dark
Yeah.
sort of vein of this new, you know, we've had this last wave of feminism, which got nasty, where females were acting like the patriarchs, the patriarchy, acting like males, you know, that overdoing that masculine energy. And again, it's like, I feel like the
Not
light
out
part,
of balance.
yeah, totally out of balance.
You can't negate one for the other.
No, you're always going to have issues, and when you have an overexpression either way. So this latest wave of the light side, yeah, like you're saying, it's you know, it's us basically. It's these women who understand that there's this balance that needs to be achieved, and it takes that awakening in both genders and finding that balance, and us individually as humans. But yeah, it's interesting to me. Teal Swan is, I see her sort of positioning herself, let's say that's the word I was thinking of, like she's positioning herself where she's mixing in some of these good ideas like you're saying, and it's why so many people are catching on, right? They put a little sugar with the poison, you know?
A little bit of truth in with the bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, do you want to keep watching that one?
That's up to you.
I would prefer to never have to hear her voice.
I know.
Because she was such an important figure for me. You know, it was at a pivotal time in my life when I felt like I couldn't trust anyone, and she put herself forward as someone that, you know, could really be trusted. And it really took me a lot of years overcoming the ability to think that I could even trust or have relationships with women again, because of how horrified I was to realize that that her satanic ritual abuse story was likely fabricated, and that someone would or could lie about something like that, because it discredits actual ritual abuse survivors. And it also, when she's eventually found out, which will be inevitable, they will use it to also discredit all of the great occult information that she's also sharing. They'll use it to discredit ritual abuse and in general, and say, oh, it's just another satanic panic. And and also she is very much so acting in a malicious male energy, where she ultimately wants to position herself as the most attractive, most desirable, best woman in the world, and to capitalize people off of people's lust and desire for her, which is a male domination rape pathology.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's, I remember hearing about these allegations, and then I forget what the exact evidence I was presented with at the time, but I remember coming to that conclusion. Oh, okay, that's bullshit. that part of her story is bullshit. It was interesting. So at the time when I came across her work, she did a response to a manifesto that was released by, it was the Santa Barbara shooter. I don't know if you remember. That was it happened in California. A young deranged kid shot up around the Santa Barbara college, and it was close to home for me because the kid who did that was the brother of the brother of my cousin's best friend. And I know that sounds far removed, but I grew up, my cousin was like one of my siblings, and so I would drop my cousin off at their house all the time. So it was just a direct person. I knew all of this shit went down, so to speak. This kid wrote this manifesto, and it was like his whole life story, and Teal Swan did this video response reading the whole manifesto. And so that's how I found her. I was just looking, you know, on YouTube or whatever. And I agreed with her assessment though of that manifesto, and having a little firsthand, you know, there's always, when these things happen, I don't know about you guys, I'm always questioning, you know, when shootings or, you know, mass shootings, I'm like, is this even real? You know, to what extent are we dealing with crisis actors, whatever? And this was something I knew, okay, this to some degree happened. And in that manifesto, it was revealed that, you know, I won't get into it, but it's been an interesting experience with this individual, specifically Teal Swan, and then hearing your experience with, I kind of had forgotten about that, but yeah, there's a lot of deceit in her her claim to fame, I guess. But yeah, talk about dark feminine energy. Jeez.
Yeah, that's like true false light, you know.
Yeah,
it's a misleading,
exactly.
you know, that because there's the dark and the light in everybody, and it can be very misleading when the dark is portraying the light, and portraying the way, you know.
Yeah.
So she's misleading and misguiding many who don't have the knowledge yet, don't have the eyes yet to see.
Yes, she's set the intent and targets people who are in very vulnerable times in their life and maybe have no one else around them to turn to. And I do believe that she's contracted with demonic forces for fame, where she's willing to do anything and step on anyone for fame. And that's why she's become one of the most well known about, is because people are willing to trust her because of the nature of her traumatic story. And they also want to identify with her because she's one of the first representations of a woman being both incredibly intelligent and beautiful. But I don't want her to be an example of the only time when women are incredibly intelligent, they use it for manipulation instead of the pure betterment of humanity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see that it just on smaller scales. I see it in the truth community. It's a lot of people are drawn, especially to, I mean, I guess social media in general, but there's people who are drawn to those platforms and those medias because they have issues with interacting with people in real life. They have issues. And so there's people who take advantage of climbing these social hierarchies online and take advantage of these people who come to those sources. I see it all the time on various scales. It's wild. I mean, again, it goes back to, I wonder how much of it is human nature and how much of it is environment, is upbringing. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. It's always interesting though to watch. I go through phases of spending time on Facebook and interacting in groups, and it gets tiring because the same dynamics seem to kind of come up every time, regardless of where it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and actually the man responsible for allowing a lot of her videos to come up in the YouTube algorithms, I believe his name is Jared Dobson, and he was a talented software programmer that she seduced and manipulated into helping grow her brand. And he has since on, I think, Mormon Stories podcast, come out and done a whole expose about how in part his take and his perspective on the fabrication of her satanic ritual abuse story. And so even the people that she used to get where she's at today are starting to come out on different platforms against her.
And like you said, it's so crazy that completely invalidates anyone else now who brings, you know, who has experiences that if they did happen, boy who cried wolf. And the same thing with, we talk about the toxic feminine people, you know, women faking rape allegations. That's, as a woman, it's pretty terrifying. And like you said, about your experience with Teal Swan, like I've had experiences with women where it's literally, it's trauma. It traumatized me, and it's still to this day, I have issues in my friendships with other women that come up and just like not trusting them because of just the nature of, you know, the dark feminine. It can be very destructive.
And I guess I have notes here just to mention that yes, siblings and friendships can be sources of attachment trauma as well. And there's something called transactional analysis, which is studying how people interact and what people want to get from interactions, and when they're in a childlike state of mind or when they're in a parental state of mind. And often the female will take the role of the dark rescuer, and where she nurtures to jockey for position and control and preeminence in her community, while males will take on the dark persecutor. as far as the drama triangle is called, the victim, rescuer, and persecutor dynamic. And it's often studied by people who also study transactional analysis. And yes, women often use their role as a nurturer in society to manipulate, dominate, and control in ways that are deeply psychological and just as loose sucking as any other format.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that feminine energy, to take in, to drain, like the succubus. Oh my gosh, we have a man enslaved in chat.
Oh, no.
I think though, as women, we need to also be careful that we don't fall into that, Dawn, too, you know, because it's easy to fall into that that mindset of using our femininity in a dark way or in a controlling way or to get our way, and to not be our true selves, you know, to be manipulative in that way, because it's very easy to do.
Yeah, and even in small ways, like little
very small ways.
things you don't even realize until you think about it, and you're like, wait, how am I using that to control in some dynamic in some small level, or
overcompensating in the other way, you know, not using enough of it in the right way. It's rough out there, man.
Carmen.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
and who's to say, like, when we talk about in terms of like how that is expressed, what is natural, what is, you know, like like it like an overexpress is something, an overexpression of a masculine, let's say a woman, you know, partaking in a certain activity or doing something that's a little more, you know, tomboyish, like there's has to be, I personally believe there's personality differences to where individuals sort of like their balance kind of teeters in a different part of the scale as far as masculine and feminine, how that's expressed maybe, or whether it's, you know, whatever. Like some would say, like, so I like riding bikes a lot, like that's something that one of the things I spend a lot of time doing in my life. It's some would say is a masculine activity and a masculine expression of a physical sport. But to me, it's like it connects in ways to where it's like I like doing events that, you know, it gets like children on bikes. Like I see my feminine expression in that activity as well. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so much gray area as far as like what is masculine and feminine and how it's expressed. But again, and then there's like you said, there's a toxic side of all of things where there's a toxic blending and we lose the polarity. Actually, I have a friend who I wanted to bring on, and he has a lot of opinions about, I guess, how would you call it? So like the whole idea of drag queens, so, you know, drag queen story time and kids exposure to, you know, over sexualizing at a younger age. My friend has an opinion to where he thinks that's I don't know, I want to bring him on, but he doesn't see any problem with that. But I see that being an issue in society now, and us losing that polarity, children being sexualized at a younger age. They lose time to develop in that innocent period in order to develop themselves. But again, it's so hard to tell what's environmental and what's natural, at least anymore.
Do you want my opinion now or after your friend comes on?
Oh no, go right ahead, because I'm not going to have him come on this show because I'm trying to keep it more open for women. But maybe down the line, if it's something, you know, I will flesh something out and have something a little more concrete. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm a TERF, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, and this is definitely a topic that we talk deeply about in our groups, because we a lot of us are still pro drag shows, but there's a time and a place and an audience for drag shows. Drag queens are adult sex clowns. They're hyperbole versions of women where men get to express and mock and satirize women in highly sexualized ways. And it's always almost blue and hypersexual in nature. They're adult sex clowns and they should not be around children in that way. And I, grew up in the gay community. I myself am bisexual. I don't view, and I'm a huge fan of drag. I'm a huge fan of Trixie Mattel. I'm a huge fan of Jasmine Masters. I've followed, several seasons of Drag Race, and it's an art form. And also, drag queens taught me how to embrace, in a lot of ways, my own fierce femininity. They laid the groundwork for women feeling safe to enjoy makeup and enjoy being fierce and hyper feminine and being a diva. And they really helped women in North America express that side of themselves and embrace that side of themselves. That being said, I do not think that they should be around children because they are adult sex clowns.
Yeah, so how that conversation came up with the person I brought up, I posted it was a man in drag, and he was basically talking about what you were just speaking about, how that it can be a healthy expression, but it's an adult activity, and to incorporate it kind of like back to the point we're talking to before, that the fact it tarnishes the image, so to speak, or the hobby, or whatever you want to call it. It's people associate drag queens with I don't want to say the P word, but minor attracted individuals. It's like it's looping in together so many things that are not, it's not necessarily true, but that doesn't mean there's negative and unhealthy aspects of that happening. Trying to bring kids to drag queen shows, or bring drag queen shows to children.
Yeah.
Yes, we struggle enough with the idea that all gay men are pedophiles, and that's not true. And
Right.
People get offensive at drag, and people like my parents don't know. They don't know when you're talking about a drag queen versus a transgender woman. They don't understand, and they have a hard time differentiating that. So when they can often, it can lead, I don't want men in female only spaces, and I don't want trans women in female only spaces, but I still want transgendered people to feel safe walking around on the street and to not feel compared to a drag queen, because that's not what they're trying to do. And
yeah, exactly.
it brings down that community as well.
Yeah, it's the nuance. It's what's hard for people, it seems. There's so many traps of just like everything becoming black and white, when there's nuance everywhere. And that's the key, really, to finding truth, is nuance. Gosh. How long have we been going? Well, I don't really have anything else to bring for you guys. Is there anything else you wanna talk about? Anything going on in your lives?
I wanted to talk a little bit about the as far as relationships go, since Ali, I've been over the other channel and seeing the dynamic going on there, and I just wanted to bring a little bit of my experience with that, because Josh, who's in chat a lot over there, is Phoenix Josh Fox, is I call my husband. We're not married. Although we've been living together for 3 years, and I consider him my husband spiritually. So that's that. But anyway, I wanted to say that because I was married twice before, and until I met him and was actually with him, I was not living in myself, for myself. My point is, once I got with him, once I got with someone who taught me that I have to be able to stand for me by myself, on my own, without him. Like, we're together, we are, I consider us married, but I stand alone from him. You know, it's not codependent. It's not one depends on the other for this and that super attachment thing that goes on. But I just want to encourage both of you that to really just seek, and I kind of see that with the dynamic with you two is a separate standing on your own. So I just wanted to encourage you guys that I think everything will work out as it should be.
Oh, thanks.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful,
but
Jackie.
I mean, it really is, because until you can really stand on your own and know that no matter what, even if you are on your own, that everything's going to be just fine and great. You could still add to each other's lives so much.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and it's all about, I mean, this self work, right? Like it's just,
Yeah.
it's so important, like for each individual, like it starts
individually.
there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely. But I've found value from, I mean, from that resource too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too. For sure. For sure. All the way around.
Yeah.
We've only been over there for a few weeks, and it's really helped. It's really helped Josh a lot. And he's actually got a fire under his ass again, you know? It's like,
good.
it's really
That's
lit him
awesome.
up. And it's
Yeah.
really helped me to see other things and really even like dig into further crap that I'm not dealing with, you know?
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, oh, how do I go and hide under here? You know? No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So, I just want to encourage both of you that everything's good and everything will be as it should be, as long as we just all continue to work on ourselves.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And
Thank
I'm really
you.
proud, of you for doing this and standing up.
Thanks. Yeah, it's hard. I
It
mean, it's just the little bit of appear, coming up on
Yeah.
other platforms, and this
Yeah.
whole idea of going live, like just
Yeah.
these past couple months. I mean, since I broke my what's it called, clavicle, and so
Yeah.
I've been forced to sort of like
Slow down.
explore and hone in on what I've been sort of avoiding as far as that self-work. But yeah, if it wasn't for that platform and those types of platforms, like I wouldn't have been able to
Keep
even
moving.
consider doing something
Mhm.
like this, and
Yeah. It's awesome.
seeing that, be able to fill in some of the space needed there. Like I said, I think it's definitely needed our perspective a little bit.
I think so too. Well, I thank you for having me on tonight, and I really
Thanks
enjoyed
for coming.
talking to you, both of you. You too, Dawn.
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie.
I'm gonna head out, and I will see you next time. And if you ever need anything, you head over to my channel, send me a message.
Perfect. Will do.
All
Thank
right,
you.
see you guys.
Have
Much
a good
love.
night.
Good night.
Much love.
And I don't know if this is a good time, but I have just some information about a fundraiser that I'd like to advocate for really quickly, that is near and dear to my heart and near and dear to the idea of arming and training women in Second Amendment rights. And
Oh, cool.
and that is that there's a gentleman, and he goes by the moniker Rhino, and he's responsible for leading what I'll refer to as the Electric Igloo movement on the East Coast. He was the one who organized the DC armed marches on several different occasions, and especially what he did most importantly was that he racially integrated the Electric Igloo movement, where he featured and promoted Black men with arms, former veterans and non-veterans, men of color, to be featured prominently within the movement. And what that really inspired me to do was to advocate for gun ownership in women and gay people here in the Rocky Mountains. And right now he's in a situation where, because he just happened to be press at the January 6th Capitol riots, he ended up being let go from his job as a prominent weapons manufacturer. And so he's right now in need of several different things, like a new hot water heater, and also groceries and basic provisions to get him to the next job opportunity. And so his Venmo is Rhino37, RhinoThreeSeven, And if you want to help support me in any way, I ask you to just please give to him. And he also, most notably, might be one of the most important living artists of our time because he's an exceptional artist. But he gave the Electric Igloo movement its notable glitch artistic aesthetic, where a lot of the goon images are featured with this glitch artistic aesthetic. And he is willing to do glitch photo edits for people if they're interested in edits, or he's also available to sell them original artwork of his. And if you're interested, or if anybody's interested in a very original OG Electric Igloo video or photo edit, his email is rhino37@icloud.com, and that is RHINOTHREESEVEN at icloud.com, ICLOUD.com. And why it's so important that we make sure that he's taken care of is because he, like many of us, is estranged from the rest of his family due to his activism and also his spiritual purification and separating himself from the intergenerational curses of his bloodline, and starting a new way of thinking and a new way of behaving. And he's really important because he really integrated civil rights in a time when it really was necessary to help advocate for supporting Second Amendment ownership within African American people. And again, his work inspired my work to do the same for women and homosexuals within the Rocky Mountain area. But given his
Cool.
level of work and what he's sacrificed for it, it's really important that we don't throw our men away and just forget about them. When he's banned from on Facebook, Facebook has targeted him so explicitly that they shadow ban him and explicitly ban him on every single platform. So now he's not even able to have a Facebook on his device or even start a new Facebook in any way. So that's why he cannot advocate for himself at this time.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. Maybe if you want to put in the comments some of that, if you want to.
Yes,
Put
I
some of that
will.
info.
Absolutely.
Repost
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
And I will include a little blurbit. He also is selling Unity Gladstone flags that feature the "Don't Tread on Me" snake with a Black Panther.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and you can contact him for that, or you can contact me for that. He only has 4 left, and they're only $20. So that is one thing I wanted to make sure I got the word out about, because they're an important person for the entire movement. And some of the pictures of him and his crew, actually mainstream media adjusted to make everybody white in the photo, when really at least over half of them are people of color. And they did that to try to make the Electric Igloo movement seem like a white power, alt-right, neo-Nazi movement, instead of what it really was an integrated movement of us throwing off the yoke of our mutual oppression.
Yeah, that's what they do. Every movement gets co-opted, and if it can't get co-opted, they just smear it, or they try to, at least. It's awesome. Yeah, I guess. And then the only thing I wanted to ask you, so have you been watching the Paul and Slave show?
I tune in occasionally, but not extensively, because it is very much so, preaching to the choir. And so,
Yeah.
So I pretty much agree with him on a lot of fronts. I'm very inspired by Paul Enslaved, especially his, I don't, not to just use a dragnet term, but the sovereign citizen work that he does in being a free person and moving in his, non-commercial, I don't know what all the verbiage is that they have to use to escape legality, but his non-commercial containment on wheels. And but his work is really exceptional, and he's really putting himself out there in major ways. And he's also had crazy ultimate sacrifices, including the Fuzz confiscating his personal weaponry before. So, and based on what he was doing with his activism and his refusal to comply with license plates.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm hoping, I'm personally like a finding that's one of the major things I find value with that show, and diving into that information even just separately. And I'm learning more about it, and I'm hoping to have more conversations and learn more and get more people on here, you know, who know more than I do. I've been watching some of, I don't know if you know Wizard from his show, El Perro. He's done a lot of extensive videos on codes, policy, and common law, all of that. So I'm just diving in, but yeah, I'm hoping as I get a little bit more into it, we can talk about it more, but it's
Great, thank you
definitely
for
valuable.
suggesting Wizard's work. I will definitely look that up.
Yeah, I can send him your or I could send you his channel.
Awesome.
All right.
And it's funny you played a Teal Swan clip because I had made a possible list of where attachment trauma can come from, like circumcision, being left alone to cry, being tormented by spirits that this our culture doesn't recognize, religion, sibling rivalry, friendship betrayals. But I also wrote down here bad spiritual leaders, and I specifically wrote down Teal Swan. And I also want to mention toxic leadership within the family can also really affect traumatizing of children. And a lot of people participate in, whether they know it or not, demonic, pedophile-like transactions that may not be actually touching the child or performing circumcision, which is a type of pedophilic act, because the child has to be aroused in the state in which circumcision is performed. But a lot of times parents will often just get off on dominating their child, or competing with the child for resources, or attacking them spiritually that way. And a lot of it can be, it's known as covert emotional incest a lot of the times, how children are groomed to be to perform for their parents and to be under the control of their parents as well. And actually, I was covertly emotionally molested by my father, where he almost treated me like a surrogate or replacement wife. Spanking is, of course, mock rape and a form of violation of a child's privates, that also harkens back to these loose sucking practices of parents. But oftentimes fathers will groom their daughters to compete with and replace their wife eventually. Meanwhile, they'll completely ignore, or they'll attack the sons as a potential future rival. So that was present in my family dynamic growing up. And so you don't necessarily have to be spanked or circumcised to experience covert emotional incest, which I know a lot of mothers perform on their sons as well.
Yeah, and just I mean, think of that type of abuse and how it affects how competitive people are unnecessarily. I mean, there's healthy competition, of course, but I mean, just the social dynamics that arise that, like I was talking about before, even like on social media dynamics, I just see happen over and over again. But it's people who have these like traumatic dynamics from childhood. I mean, it's like the number one thing, like I was talking about in the beginning. Like, it's just how are we going to create a better way of living, as people, as humans, than when we have? How do we rise out of the status quo when we, if we're stuck in these trauma dynamics and attachment issues? That's like the key in unlocking all of it, really, in my eyes, at this point.
Yes. Something that's helped me, I guess, is focusing on the frequency of sincerity, and doing things not because I think it will have elicited result, but to do things out of sincerity to myself, not from a place of fawning trauma response. A lot of women are socialized to be in a constant state of people pleasing or fawn as a trauma response, while men are often socialized to be in fight or flight as a trauma response. And getting out of the people pleasing frequency and the unnecessary toxic nurturing frequency and the fawn frequency was really helpful for me in pursuing sincerity, which as a frequency is important for me to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of key.
Yes. And thank you for this. That I think we've spoken on everything in my notes today. And thank you for allowing me this platform to discuss my ideas.
Of course. Thanks for coming on. That's wild. You made the note about Teal Swan, and then I brought that up.
Yes. It doesn't. Yes. It is ironic, but I definitely find that my life is full of irony and omens and premonitions. And definitely as women, I think that that's what we're called to do, is that where men, have a role in protecting people in this physical realm based on the mechanical advantage that testosterone gives them. Women really protect people in the spiritual realm, and we're fighters in the other dimensions, in the other realms for people. And we have these other spiritual gifts that allow us to protect people that are different than mechanical advantage. And that's really what's been overlooked in our culture, is the talent, skill, and ability that women have spiritually, and what our true role in society is as divine oracles and gateways and portals to life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Allie. Thank you for your wonderful time and your platform.
I'm going to try and do this every Friday. I'm holding myself to that. So it'll always be open for you. I'm trying to, I guess I wanted to go on at around 5 today, but I guess it happened around 5:30, but yeah, sometime Friday evening. But hope to see you again. I'll come back with some more stuff we can talk about, but hope we can brainstorm and bring something as well.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm gonna end this thing.
Great. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye. Thank you everyone in the chat.